Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Liverpool Latest. I am your host, Matt. And if you're still like me, you're reeling off of the victory that Liverpool had against Real Madrid in the Champions League and all the news that has come along with it thereafter. I've got a couple things I want to talk about with you today. First and foremost, is Connor Bradley the replacement we've been looking for at right back from moving on from Trent Alexander-Arnold? Uh, Virgil van Dijk and Wayne Rooney face off, and their separate thoughts now come to clash live on air amongst, of all things. We're going to talk about the 450 million pound or dollar master plan and if it's paying off. And last but not least, I'll share with you some quotes I saw from Courtois after the match where his team, Real Madrid, suffered defeat, where he criticizes his teammates, which isn't really much of news as much as the headlines make it out to be, but it is a curious thought nonetheless. First and foremost, let's talk Connor Bradley, okay? I love Connor Bradley. I think he's a good player. I think he struggled the last year and a half or so after Klopp's departure, but he's been a very solid player for us as of late. There's still no definite replacement at right back for him, or not replacement, but definite starter at right back in my opinion. I think it could go to anybody depending on skill set. But Connor Bradley has been the gentleman that has been put in that position the most. Okay? And so far, it's been working out these last couple of weeks. Even in certain defeats, he still struggles, but he is holding firm. And I think that's important. And he's learning from those defeats and those performances that he has during those defeats. And it's good. And I think because of that, his performances and his rise once again to prominence amongst fans after they've been shitting on him all season so far, mind you. We're now playing the, oh, he's the replacement for Trent at right back card. Deserved? I'm not sure. Definitely some delusion coming from it, and I think it's recency bias to say the least. Listen, I know that Trent essentially, for what many fans believe, turned his back on the childhood club, right? He had a very hostile reaction when he came onto the field. Rightfully so, mind you. I think he expected that response, and I'd be lying. If he says he didn't, he'd be lying to all of us. He knew what he was getting himself into. But to say that we're officially moving on from him at right back, he may not be on the team anymore, but I feel like some of his impact is missing from the team. And I'm talking about from a playmaking perspective. Very few players I have seen can have wonderful ball placement for strikers like Trent has done. Trent has been the result of many great goals, or not a result, but he's been the starting factor of many great offensive schemes and goals, sending balls to Salah and Gakpo and even Diaz and Nunez and so on and so forth when they were on the team. There's no denying he makes plays. He's even had some great goals in his own right as well. And we'd all be foolish to think otherwise. Just because he's on a different club now and he's a rat, which I do firmly stand by that, that doesn't deny the fact that he was still a great player for the club. And his impact is sorely missed, I believe. Bradley, I think, is a good defender, but I don't know if he can make the plays that Trent made. And that's important that's an important thing to realize. Now, I mean, you might have your own opinions on this. I'm curious to know what you guys think, but that's just kind of where I'm going. If the fact that people are using this game as a symbolic passing of the torch, so to speak, I mean, he's had a couple of good performances, but again, recency bias makes Liverpool fans forget, oh my God, Connor Bradley's good again. He's the savior we've been looking for from Trent. I don't know. I think that's a bizarre way to go about this whole angle, okay? I just don't believe in the whole, just because a couple of good matches doesn't make a player the end all be all. I still think that position is open for debate. I think Bradley will probably get the permanent position if he keeps this up with his performances, but it's going to take a while before we really truly replace Trent. And I feel like we'll replace him when all of us get over the fact that he's gone. That's just my opinion. Next up, speaking of beefs, Van Dijk, Virgil van Dijk, Big Verge, the captain, Wayne Rooney, going at it, live, on air. They weren't really arguing, but clearly there was some words to be had. I'm actually shocked that this interview even took place. As we all know, I've been talking about it for a couple of weeks. Wayne Rooney, I believe rightfully so, criticized Van Dijk's leadership and his form during those long stretch of losses we were having. Van Dijk goes on to say that those claims are ridiculous, and it's just the fact that, people who have platforms are just spewing their own opinions, and you have to block out the noise, which is fair on his part, but I still don't think Rooney is wrong. This all leads to a confrontation on air. In the post-match show, which again was not something I anticipated seeing to happen. I mean, again, I don't have access to Champions League material as far as live TV goes, so I actually had no idea Rooney was even a panelist on that. So he, what perfect timing, right? Especially after a victory. So Big Verge basically comes on, says his piece on the whole thing. Some quotes that he said. He says, hold on, excuse me. I have to scroll up. My bad. We're doing this live. Fuck it. I think if you would watch games, then I would definitely take responsibility. That being for the losses that they were taking. I think the comment that I signed my new deal and then that's it, I'd let it slide. I think that was a bit. But that's my personal opinion, and we move on. Goes on to say that, you have to stay calm. You can't let the media get in your head. The panelists are clearly egging it on because they know what's going to happen, and I don't know what they were kind of expecting, but the confrontation, or lack thereof, was actually quite respectful. I think Liverpool fans and their hatred for Rooney at times will say like, "Oh, Wayne Rooney got embarrassed. Look how red he looks in the video. He's all mad and embarrassed and all this jazz." Listen, man. At the end of the day, and I think Rooney also touched on this as well, he's someone with a platform who had a legendary career in the league himself. He has a right to speak his piece too. I mean, the thing is that it is up to us as fans to take that opinion as gospel or not. Think about it like this way. Stephen A. Smith has never played a single professional game of sports in his life that we know of, yet he is everywhere in the world of NFL, NBA, oftentimes fighting, and maybe some MLB in there as well. But, and he has good opinions, but at the same time, as fans, are some of his opinions a little out there? Like, what do you know about being a competitor, considering you've never been a competitor in your life? You've been an analyst all your life, so you just sit here and talk. That's your job. He does a great job at it. He makes a lot of money. That's the same role that Wayne Rooney has right now. I'm not defending him, but I am saying that that's the role that retired players will take. And he's entitled to his opinions. Whether or not we agree with them is besides the fact. I do think Virgil had a lot of balls to bring it up on air. It seems like he was the one that initiated the whole ordeal to begin with. So good on him. And I think at the end of the day, it was really respectful. And I think both guys have a respect for each other in some way, shape, and form. So I think that's what we have to take away is that, personal beefs are BS. Like there's no beef there actually at all. I mean, it's just, two professionals having a difference of opinion based on their own experiences. That's just me. I would like to know what you guys think. Speaking of experiences and different results that we would have thought, once again, I think the media and the fans might be jumping the gun on this a little bit, but I'm going to stay delusional myself here and say that, or ask the question of, is the plan of spending nearly $500 million in the offseason and transfer window going the way we had hoped? Slots master plan, as everyone's been calling it. And it's not even just the result, especially for this Real Madrid match. All right, it was the overall performance that I think people are the most impressed with, like how the team gelled, the dominance, the cohesive performance that everybody is still raving about all this time later, days later. You know, having to go through what's essentially an entire rebuild of a team to some degree, losing key strikers, some defensive players in midfield, you know, a star second string goalie. It's no small feat, you know. Having to build up what is essentially an entirely new team is a tough thing to do, and some teams it takes years to get it right. As a Knicks fan, I'll say from personal experience, as a Knicks fan, I have waited decades for them to be where they are right now. And that's saying something. You know how much scrutiny I had to face from people who were Sixers fans, Nets fans, things of that nature, other like Lakers and Bulls and all that. I had to suffer through that. Thankfully, in this case, we ended up picking up a lot of star players. It's just taking them time to gel. But I do think, like I said, the selection for the starting lineup was superb. Slot definitely got his picks right, and obviously, Verts and Gakpo were probably two of the big names on top of that. Everybody performed very well in their own right, but some articles I'm seeing definitely mention Verts. He's easily the one that has been named the most, but everybody played to par, and it was very reminiscent of how we won the league last year in the first place. Okay? So it begs the question, are we in a position or where we can make another run? Is this master plan of spending all this money going to help us? I think we got to wait until Man City to really gauge the overall squad. Because Man City's a tough team. It's going to be a tough team. And this game has a lot riding on it, too. Okay? We have second place on the line, and we have a bunch of other things. Like we have to show cohesiveness and skill and everything. And I think the confidence of the squad is probably the highest it's been all season right now. Okay? And I have full faith. I will say this outright. I have full faith we can beat Man City at the level we are playing right now. But if I see the Liverpool that I saw, I don't know, 2.5, 3 weeks ago, there's no shot. There's no shot. And it comes down to coaching, and it comes down to how the players are playing. And whether or not this validation of this master plan that everybody is talking about, whether or not there's any validity to it, we're going to find out come Sunday with Man City. And I have faith. I will say, I didn't have faith for a while there. I was kind of reeling a bit. I was in the negative headspace of it all, watching the team constantly go through struggles, especially after that Manchester United loss. But I think we're in a good spot. I just think we have to keep building off of that momentum and keep creating cohesive relationships amongst players, and everybody's got to play their role right, But that's just my personal take on it all. Again, always let me know what you're thinking as well. I'll tell you who's thinking something. Courtois. Courtois had quite a bit to think and say in regards to the post-match interview he did after the loss. Here's some of the bullet points that I have. obviously very critical of his teammates. The fouls that they were committing were too unnecessary, and it was disrupting the rhythm and inviting pressure to Liverpool. After all, like I said when I was watching the highlights, a lot of those opportunities came when they were coming off of fouls like free kicks and corners and things of that nature. That's all from Real Madrid playing sloppily. The articles I've been reading say they failed to control possession. But if I look at the stats of the match, it seems like they held possession for most of the game, granted by a slimmer margin, but still controlled the ball to some degree. But their opportunities were lack thereof due to our superb defending by Connor Bradley. He emphasizes that games like the one that they had against Liverpool are decided by details. And I can't agree more with that. I think small mistakes, cost games. Small mistakes turn to big problems for players, whether in any sport. Could be football, could be hockey, could be baseball. I mean, look at the Toronto Blue Jays. They blew a lead to win the World Series, and now Dodgers are a two-peater. You know, mistakes were made to let that happen, for sure. Though he does counsel that the team, being Real Madrid, needs to stay calm and that they'll be okay. And I'm not gonna lie. I mean, he's not necessarily wrong in any of the criticism he has. I think anybody with a functioning brain can tell you that without Courtois, and I said this in the last video, without Courtois, this team loses by like 5-0. There's no way, shape, and form about it. This team loses like 5-0 at least if Courtois isn't in net. All those opportunities that we had, superb opportunities, mind you, were blocked by him, okay? Except for that one by McAllister, all right? So, without Courtois, and, Xabi Alonso says it too, I mean, he kept them in the game. He kept the score as low as it was. They could have easily, if they did score a goal, Liverpool would have still struggled to get that second one. All right? They would have struggled to get that second goal. Hell, they were struggling to get that first goal up until the 61st minute. So, it's something that is... Think about it like this. Everybody's going to criticize their teammates. You play video games? You watching? I play a lot of video games. Of course I'm going to criticize my teammates, especially if I have a good game. And if I'm playing Call of Duty or Battlefield, I see myself on top of the leaderboard, and I see, Timmy No Thumbs on the bottom. I'm like, look at this guy. He's the reason we lost. If he had just stopped dying and stopped getting shot or whatever, we would have won the game. But that's easy to say when you're on top punching down. So, and I think in this case, Courtois is the one that's on top, because without him, the loss from Real Madrid could have been a lot worse. So, my friends, that's another episode of Liverpool Latest in the books. I appreciate you watching. Thanks for stopping by. Hit subscribe if you want to see more, or if you want to argue with me in the comments section about some of my takes today, because I had a lot of differentiating opinions here, I think, from the main group of fans online. But like I always say, online fans are just a small portion of the greater community, in my opinion. So thank you so much, and always remember, you will never walk alone.